famous person in Trinbago. It's not Brian Lara, I want to know. Women love this fella more than Bungie. He's the only love Indian in TNT. He have a show called Sexplosion on the radio. On the Wednesday and Friday, I'm telling you.
Hi.
I don't miss it at all, I always listen. I like the questions the people just be asking. Right, I like to lick. Right, you find I sick. Right, it's too small.
Good night, Brian. How are you?
I have none at all.
You in Trinidad or outside?
Time I enter, I just reach quick. The girl don't like it in she back pocket. Boy, tell me what to do about this. Then Raj will tell them call the office. 645-4543. That's the number for you. 645-4543. That's the number for you. Raj, when I give you love to provide, she put in your name. Long ago the topic sex was taboo. People used to shame to say what they do. But since the sex talk show hit TNT, people express.
Keep safe, my friend.
People just call and say what she doing. Rambo always want to do something. Sexy red females just make your pause raise. Just you not to the show what I need.
Jose, good night to you.
Make your land me.
Lisa, hope to see you tomorrow.
She want to see. Benjamin and next lady. You feel you could arrange this for me.
Hi, Rihanna.
Is she fantasy? Raj boy, you feel you could arrange this? Then Raj go tell him, call me office. 645-4543. That's the number for me. 645-4543. That's the number for me. The man have a co-host, his name is Chris. If you have another sidekick like this, Ruben and Steve say the man is a stud. He always goes about his tongue and run. As a girl say she man can satisfy she. He do say Raj boy said she might be. He come just like long boy from in Manson. He is the old sex champion. Raj, we like to swing. Raj, do anything. Raj, boy this show great. Raj, I love to masturbate. Boy tell me something what you understand. Viagra ain't working at all, man. Stop laughing, this is serious business. But again, Raj will say, call me office. 645-4543. That's the number for you. 645-4543. That's the number for you. People told the station would have called you. When Tony and they run away with the crew.
Hope it's better now.
But they didn't cater for Sexplosion. In nightly talk shows, this is number one. Because it does educate, also entertain. If you feel a like extra genre, nighttime people don't listen, I know it. They love to hear the angels and devils play. Raj, their friend Wendy. Raj, just get horny. Raj, watching two men. Raj, or two women. Anytime she ready, what she thinks. She boyfriend clocks in 6:30. What you could give him instead of mix? Here, Raj, don't worry, call the office. 645-4543. That's the number for me. 645-4543. That's the number for me.
Hi, Raj. This is Desai. I love you.
Pleasant good evening. Thank you for joining me on Sexplosion Live from my home. We're doing it live on Facebook. I am Dr. Giriraj Ramanan, better known as Dr. Raj. We're here to educate, to give you information, accurate information, to inform, and of course to entertain in some way or the other. Maybe the words that I'm saying, maybe the way I say it, maybe the expression that I have when I say it, that will entertain you. You might have a smile on your face. You might think that this guy is comical, but I'm very serious about my subject matter. I'm very serious about talking about things of a sexual issue and things that deals with both male and female and their counterpart, whether it's same-sex relationship or heterosexual relationship, it doesn't matter. We're here to talk about sexless marriage tonight. Can you remember, do you recall why you got married? How many of you can honestly say to me, or say to your spouse, or say to yourself, why you got married in the first place? Can you take your mind back to that time when you actually saw your spouse for the first time and remember the feelings that you had? And do you still have those feelings today, or a fraction of that feeling that you had then, do you have it now? And that's a very important question. I'll tell you why. Lots of time we get into a relationship, we see someone, we have all the symptoms of falling in love: sweaty palms, anxiety, butterflies in the stomach, nervousness, falling over your words, you don't know what to say. We have all been there. We have all been there. We see that person that we are really attracted to, and we want to spend the rest of our lives with that person. That's very important. And it's also important to note the reason you got married. Because the reason you got married to the person in the first place has a lot to do with what you saw, the visual impact that you got, what your mind conjured up. Because everyone has their idea of what a perfect person should be for them. You may be 160 pounds, heavy set, but there's someone out there who likes that and like a person who looks like that. Another person may be looking for a slimmer, petite person. But you also have an image. And that image is part of what you're projecting to the person when you get into the romantic mode and you want to get the person to like you. Now, I know a lot of times we do say things and do things in a particular way. Just excuse me a minute. I want to just fix my Instagram. It seems to be giving problems here. I don't know why is that. Let's see. Delete this video. Get started all over again. You really have to forgive me. Let me do this. Wow. Did not cater for that. So let's do this. My apologies. Take off the Wi-Fi here, go back there. Let's see there. Hopefully those on Instagram will get a better view. Hopefully, I don't know. These things do happen. Yeah, so you want to impress the person. You want that person to want you to be a part of their life for the rest of their life. So you will do things to romance the person, to convince the person that you are the right person for them for the rest of their life. No one gets married to get divorced. Let's make that very, very clear. No one enters the institution of marriage to get divorced. While you're getting married, you're not thinking about when you're going to get divorced. So, that should never be a word in your vocabulary as long as you maintain what you are, who you are, and your partner is also the partner that you wanted to get married to. But things change, life change, everything changes. Can you look at your partner now and have a feeling of caring, loving, wanting, heartache, nervousness when you see that person? Do you smile when you see the person? If not outwardly, inside your heart. Do you feel good being with that person? Do you have that similar feeling for when you first met the person? Now, let me tell you something about meeting someone, seeing someone that you want to be with. There's a chemical that is released by the brain called PEA. That chemical is equivalent of dopamine. It gives you that feel good feeling. It makes you feel, yes, a sense of euphoria, sweetness, happiness, everything rolled into one. And the more you meet with that person and the more you interact with the person, the more the chemical is released into your brain. But like everything else, anything that is released and absorbed by the brain, by the body, eventually you need more and more and more of it to get that same feeling that you had initially. That's why addiction is something very serious and it's related to the brain. So that chemical that is released by your brain that causes you to get this strong, beautiful feeling about the person you're in love with, you want that feeling all the time. Some persons maintain it throughout their lifetime, throughout their partnership with the person. Some persons don't. When I put out the broadcast saying sexless marriage, I got some feedback. Is there such a thing? Today I met a client and he told me that whenever he sees his spouse, he gets angry. He gets very, very angry when he sees her. He's no longer in love with her. He no longer cares for her. He no longer has the same feelings for her. And yes, they have a sexless marriage simply because he don't get an erection for her. Not that he cannot get an erection. He don't get an erection for his wife. Now, these are serious issues that we're dealing with here. But getting back to the initial question that I asked, why did you get married to the person you're married to? And yes, you're married to that person. And is it a marriage that there is happiness in that marriage? Is it something that you would embrace and want to do again with the same person? Do you lie next to that person and caress them and say, oh my God, I love this person so much? Do you look at that person and say, yes, this is my spouse, my wife, my husband, and yes, I love this person? Do you ask yourself these questions and get those answers? If you don't, you have an issue. If you look at your wife and you have doubt about whether you still love her, you have a problem. If you look at your husband and say, hey boy, I could have do better, then you have a serious problem. That PEA that is released by your brain is released in minute amount here, throughout. Every time you see the person, it will release a little bit and you'll have that feelings and it expands and your body absorbs it. And then the next time a little more is released and that's how it goes. But after 2 or 3 years, it takes a lot more of the chemical, which you may no longer be producing because you no longer have the feelings for the person the same way. Now, these are very serious issues we're talking about here. These are issues that persons don't really think about when they end up in problems in their relationship. They tend to think that I have a problem in my relationship because of some external factor and not something internal. Not what you feel in here, but what you feel here. But it may not be so. Another serious issue which we have not addressed, and persons might be surprised that I'm addressing this now. In a sexless marriage, it may be attributed to the fact that both partners were very sexually active years before they decided to get married. Now, that's a very serious issue. If you were involved with your partner in a strong sexual way, doing a lot of things differently sexually, you are doomed to failure in your marriage because you have done all the things you're supposed to do after you're married. Person may be wondering why I'm saying this. If you're very sexually active with your partner, more than likely you're living with someone, you're in love with someone, that's your girlfriend or whatever, you'll want to engage in all kind of sexual trysts. But because you have experienced all those things with this person, later on when you do get married, you may not even have sex on your wedding night. There are lots of women, when surveys are done, will say that they didn't have sex on their wedding night. Not that they don't have sex. They did not have sex on their wedding night, their honeymoon night. Why? Because you have exhausted yourself sexually all the years before with your partner, and there's nothing to do. So it's easy for you to get married, get drunk, have a good time at the party and whatnot, and then go to bed. There's no reason to have sex. There's no newness to it. There's nothing exciting about having sex on the wedding night if you have exhausted yourself sexually 5-10 years before. Now I'm leading up to the sexless marriage, but I'm putting all these things out there for you to understand that there are factors that causes these things to happen. So you may tell yourself, I'm in love with this person, and yes, I want to have sex with the person because that PEA enzyme, that chemical that is released by the brain, and it's an enzyme. The synthesis of it is an amino acid. Makes you want to do that. Makes you want to make love to your partner because you love your partner. But are you preparing for when that chemical diminishes in your life and you're no longer getting that serious feeling of love and appreciation for the person? Are you preparing your mind for that? How many of us are prepared mentally to tell yourself, 25 years into my marriage, I'm going to love my wife or my husband more than I love them today? That's why in a reception, when you are at a reception, newlywed couple, they say this is the happiest night of your life. No, this is the start of the happiest time of your life. The marriage ceremony is one of euphoria, generally, in all ways. But when you are married, the feelings that you have the night of your wedding or the day of your wedding, when you look at your partner, when you look at your wife or you look at your husband, and you only have eyes for them, and that's one day that you only have eyes for your partner. It's the one day that you should only have eyes because your heart, your brain, your mind is concentrating on this one individual. There's nothing there to distract you. And continuously thereafter, for years and years into your celebration of anniversaries, you must have that same feeling, and that feeling must grow, not diminish. But a lot of us, we plant some plants that are perennials. It dies after a while, and you have to replant, and dies and replant. And we don't plant the sturdy mango tree that is going to last 75, 80 years planted there. We don't plant the coconut tree that despite whatever breeze blow by, the coconut tree is going to stand there and stand strong. What is your marriage? A petunia? Dies after 6 months, 9 months? Or is it as strong as one of these trees, a cocoa tree, 100 years old? How strong is that bond? What are you doing to increase that bond year after year when you look at your spouse? Yes, you're going to have arguments. Yes, you're going to have quarrels. Yes, you're going to have disagreements. Those are all part of life. But it should not be that these disagreements and arguments and whatever you may have should lead to violence, one, or lead to animosity in the relationship where you say, I no longer love my husband, I no longer love my wife. You know, men cheat. And we have established that many times. But do you know that men cheat to save a marriage? Especially a sexless marriage. Women, on the other hand, would cheat when they're ready to leave the relationship. When they're fed up and done with the relationship, they cheat. Time to move on. Men will cheat and come back and use that as a plaster over the sore that is festering in the marriage. But at least they're getting the sexual relief. Sexless marriage. You like plenty sex, your spouse don't. Plenty sex means 2 or 3 times for the week, your spouse once a month. Problems. If both partners likes to have sexual intercourse, enjoys each other company, like to fondle, fool around, make love and whatnot, by all means, you're going to grow. It would not be a sexless marriage. It will be a marriage where you are sharing things and enjoying the fruits of it. But if you are on one track and your partner is on another track and the tracks are moving parallel, like train tracks, you're never going to meet. You're never going to come together. Train tracks cannot come together for the simple fact that it has to be a certain amount of feet apart for the wheels to run. And if your relationship is like that, where you are on train tracks, left and right, husband on one side, wife on the other side, and you're heading down the road in the same direction, you love each other, but you're not madly in love with one another, you're not going to meet in the middle. You're living parallel lives. And if those parallel lives allows you to not want to have sex with your partner, that's a sexless marriage. By definition, with the expert sexologists like myself and sex therapists, a sexless marriage is anyone who having sex less than 12 times for the year, once a month. That is considered to be a sexless marriage. But there are individuals out there who have sex less than that. They have 52 weeks in the year. And some person may have sex once a week. When the recommended amount of times that you have sex for a happily married couple that is using sex or having sex regularly, and sex is the semen that are binding them together, 2 or 3 times a week. So let's use the mathematics of it. Mathematics is in everything, even sex. 52 times 3 times a week, 156. How many of you can sit there listening to this program and say, I am having sex 100 times for the year? With my spouse, not with someone else. If you're not having sex regularly with your spouse, one of 2 things happen. You see, men are excited by the fact that they're going to have sex. Isn't that true? We see someone, we see our spouse, we hear something, we watch the internet, we see porn, somebody send us a joke, your workmate, the person sitting next to you in work, looking sexy today, she bottom looking nice, legs looking good, you catch a glimpse of the panty, you want to go home and have sex. But that's how it works for men. For women, you have to get them started. As you get a woman started sexually, she now gets in gear and she has that build up and she wants to have sex. A man wants sex and initiates it, or you have to initiate sex and then the woman will want it. That's the opposites that we play with. And that's reality. That's the God honest truth. And if women are honest enough, they'll say, yes, that's the way it is. Majority, no, it's not like that 100% of the time. But the majority of the time is you have to initiate something with your wife or your spouse, your girlfriend, and then she will pick up and then she will want to have sex. She will get excited and she will want to have it. But if you're running on parallel lines, there's no meeting in the middle. So I want to say a special good evening to some people here. Yvonne, Marie, Nizam. Is working too much an excuse not to have sex in a marriage? I would like to think as long as you are attracted to a person, they should want to be with you at least once a week. Or am I wrong? You could be. There are many excuses persons make not to have sex. Men, normal excuses are they don't go home. They find every excuse not to go home, so there is no challenge or there is no anticipation or need to have sex. Women, on the other hand, have many different excuses. I have a headache tonight. My belly puffy. Oh God, this period thing coming on. I'm not in the mood now. The children give real trouble today. I remember a joke. This guy would be getting all these excuses all the time. So one day he comes home. He's really horny from work. Comes home. He goes to the kitchen. Take a glass of water. Put it on a tray. Take a bottle of aspirin. Put it on the tray. And he goes up to his wife. Say, honey, I'm home. And he handed her the tray. And she's like, why did you bring aspirin and a glass of water for me? I don't have a... Yeah, we could have sex tonight. He actually had to fool his wife into she confessing that she wanted to have sex. Not knowing that she's confessing that she wanted to have sex. But she's not going to have an excuse. These are the things that happen. There's so many things that women use to not have sex. But remember what I said, and I'm very serious about that. I'm not advocating that this is the only reason men cheat. But the majority of the time men cheat is to save their marriage or to remain married. So they could put up with the wife and they could put up with the frustration and they could put up with the refusal and whatnot. They get something on the side. Women, when they decide to cheat, is because it's the end of the relationship as far as they are concerned. Even if they remain in the marriage, it's done. They prefer to give whatever they have to someone else. So in the sexless marriage, you have factors that are working against you. But the main factor that works against you is your brain, the largest sex organ that we possess. Because of that chemical that is released by our brain, the PEA, we no longer feel that sense of euphoria when we see our loved one. We don't ever feel that sense of loving and happiness when we see our loved ones. Therefore, we are backpedaling. And given the other factors in our relationship, which will add to this. Now remember, I always maintain that sex is the cement that binds a relationship together. It's not the most important factor, but it is the cement that binds the relationship together. But you may have financial problems. You may have issues with schooling. You may have issues with work. You may have issues with the neighbor. You may have issues with your car breaking down. You may have issues that are bringing on stress to you that is going to cause you to not want to engage in any kind of sexual activity with your spouse. But the question still remains, do you understand how important sex is to your partner and to yourself to maintain a strong relationship? And if you understand that initiating sex with your partner, especially initiating it with your wife, helps her to get into the mood Although some men would say, well, I always initiate in sex. You don't have to always initiate it. There are times that the woman should initiate it. There are times that, when birthdays and anniversary and special event comes around, the man is always looking forward to a little sex. Always. Despite what gift you may give him or whatever you may have for him, the sex is the most important gift. Ask any right-thinking man that out there, not one who's fed up of you. The one who's fed up of you or fed up of the relationship or no longer want and tell you, yeah, sex is not important, something wrong. Sex is always an important factor in a relationship. Make up sex. Sex for your birthday. Sex for anniversary. Sex to celebrate something. Sex is the celebratory tonic. It's the tonic that you need. Now, your partner may not be thinking along the same line because, again, you're dealing with male and female. You're dealing with people who have different opinions and different ways of looking at things. Compartmentalizing things. Having everything wrap up in one big bunch like women do. So issues that are non-issues at the time of wanting to do something become an issue. Whereas a man will say, that I forget a long time. Because we're not thinking with emotion, we're thinking with practicality. What are you using? What are the fuel that you're using to propel your marriage forward? What are the factors that you're using to make things better? To strengthen that relationship? These are the things that we have to examine. So in the sexless marriage, the marriage where both partners no longer desire one another, for whatever reason, all the reasons that I put forward before, all the things that I spoke about before. And here you are now, in a marriage, 5 years into the marriage, and you're no longer interested in one another sexually because you had 10 years of sex before that. Who's to blame? Me? Or you? Not managing your relationship. Who is to blame? Who do you put the blame on? Do you look at yourself carefully and say, wait a minute, I am responsible for this crap that I've put myself in. I am totally responsible for this. I am responsible for not paying attention to the needs of my spouse. I am responsible for the argument, the fight, the quarrel, the everything in the relationship. I am responsible and I need to address that. And because I need to address it, I should be addressing it. And I should be addressing it with my spouse. You know, the only person you should take into your bedroom when you're having sex is a sex therapist. But not physically. And here, the advice by your sex therapist is what you should be taking into your bedroom. The advice that you get. Many a times, many times, when persons come to my clinic, the adult therapy clinic in St. Augustine, and they start telling me about their relationship and things that are happening in their relationship and the things that are going well for them or not going well for them, I can clearly see the problem from their body language, from the way they look at one another. When you look at your spouse and you're turning up your eye when they're talking and whatnot, that is not loving. That tells me there's animosity in the relationship. That's what it tells me as a sexologist, as a sex therapist, as someone who is a counselor. That's what I see. And many a times you see that. The woman pulls away from the man pulls away from the woman, she's turning her eyes up in her head. He's saying something and she doing so, making monkey face. It tells me that the relationship has reached rock bottom. But the greatest sex therapist that you have is that same brain that caused you to be in that situation. Once you can speak to someone professionally who can advise you of the things that are causing your relationship to go this way, and you start listening, this is what's supposed to be happening. It's supposed to come together. You may put out a little more than your spouse, but you're trying to make things work. And you're trying to view each other differently. You're trying to rekindle that love, that fire you have in your heart, or had in your heart for your partner. And those are the important factors. What you can rekindle, what you can bring to the forefront, what you can actually say that this is what my relationship needs. This is what I want in the relationship for it to work. Are you doing that? Have you examined your relationship and said, well, okay, we're having sex X amount of time? And Dr. Rad said that is not good. We make love to one another, but it doesn't kindle that fire inside of you. You don't feel that sense of euphoria with your partner. Something is wrong with your relationship. Why have many things going wrong with your relationship when you have it within yourself to fix it? First of all, by finding someone who can help you with it, talking to that person, taking the advice, and making it work for you. Make the advice work for you. Make that work for you. Feel it. Feel what your partner meant to you when you first met that person. Feel the nervousness inside your stomach when you're next to your wife, when you're next to your husband. Feel that sense of love when you look at the person's face, their back, their buttocks, their leg. Lick your chops. There's nothing wrong with a man desiring his wife. Nothing wrong. Don't tell me that that is not acceptable. Don't tell me it's not acceptable to touch your wife's buttocks, pinch her a little bit, rub up on her. Don't tell me that. No, I'm not saying to do this in a function at a temple or mosque or a church. I'm not telling you to do that with your spouse in a family gathering. But there are times that you could be intimate with your wife, with your husband. The same things you would have liked to do before you got married with that person. Do it. Employ it. Use it. Make it part of who you are. Rekindle that. Don't let pornography become a tool of your marriage, which some people do. They need pornography to bring the excitement in your relationship. Don't allow external factors to become the most important thing in your relationship. The important factors in your relationship is you and your partner. That partner is not your sister. He's not your brother. He or she is your lover. And when you look at your lover, you must feel like making love to that person. You might feel like wanting to be with that person. That is what being in love is all about. That is what that feeling is all about. When you look at the person, the desire must come within you. The chemical must be released from your brain and say, oh my God, but this woman has turned me on. This man has turned me on. Oh yes, you are older than when you got married. And when you got married, the reason you got married is because you were in love with the person and you wanted to spend the rest of your life with that person. And he or she was the perfect person for you. Despite what every other person may have told you, you decided to be with that person for the rest of your life. You know the funny thing about it, and I always like to use myself as an example. I still remember the first day I saw my wife in detail. In detail. I still remember how she looked. I still remember how she was dressed. I still remember how she was sitting. I still remember how she was not smiling. I still remember the shy little girl sitting opposite me. And I was madly in love. Madly. So much so I said, look, that person is going to be my wife. Look, my wife. And do you know I still feel that way? Do you know I still look at her and feel that? I still lie next to her at night, every night, and thank the Lord that this person is my wife. I still feel that today, 46 years after first meeting her. 46 years. And it's one of the most wonderful feelings there is. I think that feeling is so close to devotion, it's unbelievable. It's the feeling that I get when I see my Godfather when he was alive, or when I go to the temple to pray, or when I sit in my puja room to do my little prayer and meditation. It's the same feeling I get. It's not a lesser feeling. So I equate my feelings for my wife to the feelings of love for my God. How many of us could do that? How many of us could look at our spouse and say, yes, it's the best choice I've ever made in my life. There is nothing better than this. I don't regret one single moment of this, and if I have to do it all over again, I will do it with the same person. That's what you need to do. That's what you need to start a spark. Because when you got married, when you decided to live with this person, that spark was there. It may have been a flame. Now you douse it with water, spray it with fire extinguisher, and it's dying. But the spark must still be there. Old firewood easy to catch, as we say in Trinidad. Where there is smoke, there is fire. Just blow on it. After tonight, I want each and every one of you who's in a relationship to examine the origin of the relationship. And while examining the origin of the relationship, examine also what you did to feed the relationship or to douse it. Just as much as I remember the first day I saw my wife sitting opposite me, going to register for high school, Northeastern, 1974, August month. Just as much as I remember the first day we actually sat together on a stairwell, 3 stories high, Northeastern College down in the back of Matlat. Still remember that day. Still remember the feelings. And there was no sweeter feeling in the world. None. No drug, no amount of chocolate, no alcohol could give you that feeling. Sweetest feeling ever. And if for one moment of sadness in my life, I just reflect on these days. I reflect on those days, 46, 45, 43, 42, 40 years ago. And I tell myself, I am fortunate, very fortunate, to have myself as an example to talk about this. And yes, Candy, yes, it could get stale. Yes, you could end up in a divorce. Yes. But is it the end of the world? Is it the end of the world for you if your relationship diminishes, finishes? Why can't you get off that and start something else with someone else? Yes, you may have been hurt. But my factor here is the marriage that are sexless. That is the topic for tonight. The marriages that are still going on that are sexless. Little or no sex in the marriage. Some marriages, no sex at all. And these are heavy statistics that we get, as sexologists and sex therapists. We get these information from all over the world, from other sexologists, what's happening all over the world. And don't feel Trinidad is unique. The same thing that is happening in Trinidad is happening in Tobago, is happening in Jamaica, is happening in Bahrain. Same thing. The degree at which it happens may be different, but the same thing happens. And the statistics prove that these things happen over and over again, and no one is addressing it, or no one is trying to find a solution for these things. As social anthropologists, sexologists, we try to find solutions, and we can only give the solution to those who come to us. When a person comes to us at our clinics and we hear the different factors affecting the relationship, we don't cast blame. Our job is to try to fix it as best as we could. I see my brother is on. Courtney, how are you, my friend? My dear, dear friend. I disagree with you, Candy. That statement is a blanket statement that is defeatist. Nobody is willing to experiment to bring the spark back. Why not? Ask yourself why you are in a marriage with someone and you're not willing to seek help, to experiment, to do the things that are going to bring the spark back in your relationship and make things better. You want to remain in a relationship where you're miserable, where you're angry with your partner? I don't think anybody wants that. And I don't think that anybody should put up with that. Anyone who is in a relationship that is causing stress and heartache and ulcerated stomach and sleepless nights should not remain in a relationship like that, because it is doing nothing for you. You are not fulfilling anything in your life. You may be successful at your profession, but you'll be miserable in your life. You need to put whatever it takes to start that process going all over again. It is your responsibility to do that. Good night to my cousin, Anil. It is your responsibility, not mine. My responsibility is to wake up that brain of yours, My responsibility is to give you the information, truthful, correct information for you to do the right thing, not for me to do it for you. I do it for my wife and myself. But you have a responsibility to yourself for your personal happiness. You need that to do that. And that brings us back to the question that I was asking. Why did you get married? Did you get married to the person for financial freedom? Did you get married to the person because of prostitution? You're prostituting yourself to your husband to get his money? That's what some people do. And if that is why you got married, by all means, reap the rewards of that. But if you got married because you genuinely was in love with your partner and wanted to make a life with that person, regardless of whatever may come across or whatever may happen, you have a responsibility to keep that going. You have the responsibility to keep it going, nobody else. Because at the end of the day, you have to make it work. That is caused by feeling unloved by spouse. Before marriage, the place of worship should counsel couple on matters such as these. Both people must recognize that they must work towards a meaningful relationship. I beg to differ on that answer that you gave there, Jenny, for the simple fact that sometimes you go to a place of worship to get counseling from somebody who's a divorcee or somebody who has never married but pretends to know the beauty of marriage. You have to be careful where you get your information. You have to be careful of who's counseling you. Lots of time women will go to their single girlfriend or men will go to their single partner to get advice on their marriage. Where their partner cannot even hold on a girlfriend or a boyfriend. So you have to be very careful where you're getting your information. Get your information from a reliable source. Understand your situation in a holistic manner. Be willing to experiment with yourself. Some people find it hard to say, I'm sorry. Some people find it hard to say, I made a mistake. Some people find it hard to say, honey, I love you and I want to spend the rest of my life with you despite I'm miserable right now. And I want to get out from this misery. How many of us has taken that step in their relationship 5 years into marriage, 10 years into marriage, 15 years into marriage, 20 years into marriage to change these things? And I agree sometimes it goes one way. And I agree sometimes you have to put out 90% and the other person put in 10%. But is that not the sacrifice that you're willing to do to make it work? Relationship like that is not only bad for the parties but also for the kids. Isn't that correct? Of course it is. Negativity in a relationship, the kids are going to pick up on it. It's going to become toxic at some point. The hatred, the animosity, the anxiety, it's going to be there. It is going to be there. In a sexless marriage, there is no semen that is going to bind the relationship together. You may be happily married, but not happily in love with one another. Because you're just surviving in the relationship for whatever reasons, financial, children, home. You're not willing to split the house. You don't want to give up your car. So I remain in the relationship. Or I don't think she could get 50% of what I have because I work hard for everything. You're studying that she worked hard for everything too. A marriage is a work in progress. Courtney, when we were doing accounting so many years ago, Accounting 101, Nova University, a WIP, a work in progress. You still have to account for that. You still have to account for whatever materials were used for the work in progress, whatever labor was used for the work in progress to give you a final product. So if you take a work in progress that costs 1 cent to start, the value of it is a cent. A marriage is a work in progress all the time. There is no manual when you got married to your spouse. The only manual you have to follow is your parents, if they are in a steady relationship. That's the manual you have. You have no remote control to switch and rewind and pause. and lessen the volume or mute. You don't have that. All you have is this and the willingness to make it work. Think about what is going to happen to you in the long run after 30 years of marriage. You decide to go your separate ways. For whatever reason, there's justification in anything that you can do. But are you going to be happier with what you have coming as opposed to what you had? When you could have fixed what you have, make it better. Now, I'm not saying everything is fixable. There are some things that just cannot fix. And I recognize that also. But tonight, my topic is on sexless marriage and what you can do to rekindle that fire. That is what my topic is tonight. Don't get me wrong. It has nothing to do with infidelity. I talk about infidelity in a little piece of this where I say men would sometimes cheat to keep their marriage going. Women will cheat at the end of the relationship and say, "Tell was it that I gone?" Some women will cheat also to keep the marriage going, if the sex are good in the marriage. A lot of people is programmed into believing sex is, well, a lot of persons are programmed, especially women, are programmed to think that sex is not supposed to be satisfactory. Women are never taught about the beauty of sex. They never taught about orgasm and multiple orgasm and the G-spot and all those things. A mother don't want to tell her daughter about those things, or the best sock you could ever get on your vagina. No, they'll tell you, don't let no man touch you down there. You ever kiss a boy, when you kiss him, don't let him touch your breast. Or don't go and kiss no boy. All the negativity, you could get STD, you could get STI, you could get pregnant. All these negative things you hear all the time. Not once a person will tell their daughter, sex is a nice thing. When you start to experience sex, you will like it. How many of us brave enough to do that? We are not. So we program the woman to think that sex is negative and sex is something you shouldn't be engaging in, except if you're married and you're only doing it with your spouse. And no expectation about orgasm, multiple orgasm, squirting, gushing, oral sex, performing oral sex, giving oral sex, receiving oral sex. No information on that. Very good question, Candy. Can a threesome jumpstart a sexless marriage? Yes, it could. If done in the right way for the right reason. If done in the right way for the right reason, as a sex therapist, I can tell you many a times person come to me with that very same question, and I have to help them to get around it and understand the reasons behind it. Some people just get lazy and expecting the other person to put in all the work and sometimes no positive response from the other. That's true also. But I can only use myself as an example. I can only look at myself in the mirror and say, yes, this is a relationship that I have, and this is what I did to make it work. Both as a professional, as a regular human being, as a trainee. That's what I did. I cannot go and advise my brother on what he should or should not do. He asked my advice, I give him my answer, and that's it. I can't force you to do something beyond what you want to do. I'm not that kind of person, never was and never will be. When my clients ask me questions, I give them advice. I say, I'm not telling you what to do, I'm giving you advice. You decide, your brain. Sift through all the information that I've given you, absorb what is relevant for you and put it to use. Put it to use. Good night, Kishore. How are you? There are many faculties and many facets and many things associated with sex and a relationship. Sex is not the most important part of a relationship. It's the cement that binds the relationship together. I've made that clear time and time again. I've made that very, very clear. What is important, what is important to note is that you have the powers to make that relationship better. You have it within yourself to put all the factors in to make it work. You have to find the information that is going to make your sexless marriage into a marriage of one with sex. And a one that is going to spice up your relationship. Get your wife to feel horny. Remember, men are horny on the drop of a pin. Women, you need to start them up. It's like them long time crank engine, you know. You turn it, you turn it, you turn it, and then you give it that crank, and then it starts to work. And when it starts to work, it's working, and you can't stop it. That's how women are. That's why if you're a minute man, for the time you enter or you're thinking about entering, you're ejaculating, you're in trouble because you can't even get the woman started. Women are in frustration. Some women are in a sexless marriage because they're frustrated with their partner. The husband cannot satisfy them. He's not doing the things that are going to make her excited. She's not building up that excitement. She's not having that orgasm or that feeling of euphoria that you get. There's no release of chemicals in the brain, so there's only frustration and anger. If these are the factors that are affecting your marriage, you need to work on it. You need to come in for counseling. You need to talk to someone. You need to do all the right things. And don't go talking to a priest about sex in your bedroom. You know. Priest, pastor, pundit can't help you with that. All they will tell you is an important factor, but we really can't get into that. Don't make the position about the dog position where the man is only begging. Yes, Jenny, that is so true. Rekindling your desire for your partner might be a hug, Might be a little kiss on the cheek or a kiss on the head or a kiss somewhere, and you say, darling, I love you. I like being with you. I just want to sit down or touching the toes and giving you a little massage. That is what is important. Attractiveness is important. Don't let your husband come home and find you in curlers, the same clothes he leave you home in the morning. Don't come home and find your husband in lazing around, sit down on a couch, being a couch potato. Have some pride in yourself. Most important thing, and the most important thing in a relationship is communication, Courtney. Communication. Sex is communication. It's a factor of communication. Communication, communication, communication. Compromise, compromise, compromise. Those are the factors in a relationship. Willing to compromise, willing to communicate. Those are the important factors. And when you talk about communication, sex is communication. Randall, good night. This is what we have to do. Attractiveness of yourself. Love yourself. You look at yourself in the mirror and say, yeah, man, I hot. I wonder if my wife find her hot, baby. When you watch your wife and you peep at you and say, oh, God, that woman just turned me on, I could just tackle she right here. Those are the important things. Those are the things that you need. Those are the important part of, that is the communication you have with your eyes, the communication you have with your brain, the communication you have with your heart, and the communication you have with your words. You use our 5 senses, and we should use it positively with our spouses, our partner. Listening to the person, seeing the person, smelling the person, kissing or tasting the person, and touching. Those are the elements that you have to incorporate it into you and every single day. You're passing by your wife, you pinch your bottom a little bit. Passing by your husband, you give him a little hunch. Some men might take it the wrong way and say, "Why you not looking me down for, girl?" Because they're accustomed to that, and she'll just smile and say, "I'm licking you down." The smile, if she only say it that way, the smile alone will make your heart melt. How many of you do foolish things to make your wife laugh? I do it all the time. I'll talk stupidness. I will behave stupid because I love to hear my wife laugh. I love to see her smile. We have some foolish things we just say to one another. Foolish things. Today she was naming a device in the house, and I say, "What you should name?" She asked me what she should name it, and I gave her one of her pet name. I said, "Name it that." She started to laugh. But it's the foolish things that you say to one another that brings about the smile, that brings about the laughter, that lightens the moment, that make you look forward to being with the person. You know, I finish my work around 5 these days. Before it was a little later. And I would leave my office and it takes approximately 21 minutes to get home in traffic. Without traffic, it's 12 minutes. And I don't stop anywhere for anything. Not even by the fruit stall to buy a fruit to come home. I am busy to come home to see my wife and to be with her. And that's the God honest truth. Even to sit down in the couch and watch her in the kitchen do her stuff. And when she's ready, she'll come and sit and put on her favorite program. And we'll just be there teasing one another. And no matter how much I tease her and how much she's irritated by it, she still allows me to do it. Because it's our playtime. That's our playtime. That's what you have to do. You have to know your spouse. I know when I'm going a little bit too overboard. I know when to pull back. I know sometimes when I don't do something, I see she come to me with the expectation and she's wondering, why are you not doing this? And I remain kind of serious, a pensive mood to hear what she have to say. And then she'll suddenly get up and go and make a cup of tea for me and bring it. She wouldn't ask me if I wanted it. But that's her way of showing she cares. These are the things that you have to do. If your spouse has a medical condition and is unable to have sex, what kind of toys can be introduced in the bedroom without making your spouse feel demasculated? Emasculated. Many things, but discuss it with your partner. A simple thing, a vibrating egg, a bullet, a small vibrator, some toy that is going to bring happiness to both parties. A person who has some sort of ailment or some sort of disability doesn't mean to say they will not enjoy sex or doesn't enjoy being aroused. Again, communication comes in there. Darling, I want us to get something to use and I want you to feel happy. I want you to at least have an orgasm. Or you could teach your wife tantra like I have done and she could have an orgasm without doing anything. That could be a dangerous thing too. Sometimes you have to regret these things, no. Not that I do, but she has the ability to do certain things that goes beyond logic sometimes. After many years, people let themselves go. We must remember why we fell in love and don't let go of those things, the laughter, the fun, cleanliness, attractiveness, cleanliness, personal hygiene, attractiveness. All those are important factors. All those are important factors to make your life wonderfully happy. To have you enjoy your relationship to the fullest. Tonight I'm happy. I got so much interaction from my dear friend Courtney, from Jenny, Bianca, Candy. These are people, some of them I know personally, some of them I know through Facebook. Jalicia, Bianca. I saw someone there. I saw my nephew was on. Some of you I know personally, some of you I know through Facebook, some of you are my friends. And again, if you're my friend on Facebook and you see me anywhere, just come and talk to me. That's how I am. I talk to anybody. I am no beast. I am not a beast. I believe in friendship and love and all those things. You have it within yourself to bring about the change that will make your life better. You have the powers to make your spouse happier. In a sexless marriage, the first thing you should be striving for is to bring back some sort of sexual strength, sexual powers in the relationship, and work from there. Rekindle whatever you had. Try to make it work. Seek professional assistance. Talk to someone who can best advise you. Do not let porn be your guide. Do not let a misguided person who may be your friend, your best friend, give you guidance when they're not guided properly. Do not allow certain elements to put a damper on your relationship, especially the sexual part of it. And especially if those elements are against what you're trying to do. Be mindful, be alert, understand your situation and who you're with. Be loving, kind, gentle, understanding, communicative, compromising, constructive with your relationship. Give it your all. It's the best investment you could have ever made in your life. No other investment is worth the investment of you and your partner. As time goes by, that relationship, that investment is going to pay heavy dividends. An orgasm a day keeps depression away. I believe in that. For the women who have had an orgasm and who have not listened to their parents and their teachers who was telling them sex was bad, sex is not bad. The persons who were giving you the information had bad information. There is nothing bad about sex. Sex should be enjoyed by both parties, by those involved, to the fullest, and it must be satisfactory. You must be satisfied in the things that you're doing. It is good to open up on discussions such as these. It's very taboo in many homes and relationships. The very thing we don't speak about sexually are the very thing that will destroy a good relationship. So true. We are afraid to speak the truth. I said that, Courtney, yes, you are responsible for your own happiness. But at the same time, if you're in a relationship, you're also responsible to make sure you feed the ingredients to your partner for they to be happy. It is not a selfish thing and it's not a one-way thing. It is two ways. Just as much as your spouse will smile with you and bring you that cup of tea, that will help you to put a smile in your heart, the very same way you should be doing those things to your spouse or for your spouse. Buy your spouse a fruit. Pick a flower and bring it for her. Or buy a flower plant and give it to her. Do the things that are going to make your spouse smile and not frown. Even the odd little stupid things that we do to cause that smile to come on, keep on doing it. I keep on doing it. I don't give a crap. I don't care who judge me. As a matter of fact, my children sometimes just rock back and laugh at us for the funny little things we just tell each other. But they know that's our way of expressing our love for one another. Some persons can't say I love you, but they'll do everything in their powers to show you that they love you. What's important? Feeling the love or hearing it? Because some persons could easily say I love you, but there's no feelings behind it. Is that the kind of love you want? Is that what's going to make you happy? I don't. Don't be fooled by things. Be strong in your conviction. Be willing to compromise and make things work. I am Dr. Giriraj Ramnanan, better known as Dr. Raj. I have my clinic in St. Augustine at Total Image, 645-4543, as the Calypso says. You can also see me in Princestown, Debe. Tomorrow I'll be in Princestown and Chaguanas. Thursdays I'm in Debe and Chaguanas. Monday, Fridays, and Saturdays I'm in St. Augustine. You can make an appointment, 645-4543. Come in, see me. My cell phone number, 740-1961. Send me a message. I hope this program has done something positive for you, your spouse, your relationship. I hope it has got you thinking in a particular way. I hope I have touched something within you to make you a better person tomorrow. Good night.